Welcome to Tab Talks, where I believe that talking is healing and listening is feeling. This is my first ever podcast. Creating my first ever podcast called Tab Talks. Talking is healing, right? Talking is healing. I believe that through talking, because I love to talk a lot, that I actually gain some healings from sharing information, especially with my mates. So that's basically why I created this podcast. I want to talk with my friends about their journeys, the things they've learned, tell some stories about our life, and just hopefully it might resonate with anyone listening out there. Because as much as talking is healing, so is listening. So here we go. Today on Tab Talks, I have a very, very special guest, special person that has a great place in my heart and has supported me over the last few years. And her name is Maya Syra Rose. And today we're going to be talking about all kinds of mystical, magical, psychic, spiritual gifts, and a lot of the magic about dreaming. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. It's so nice to be in your space, Tabby. So thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad we managed to do this. And we met during lockdown, which was my giant spiritual awakening. And we met on a course of learning, and it was the basic, no, it was the advanced. Was it the advanced? The advanced theta healing course, where I learned to do theta healing. It was a magical, transformational time for me. And basically on the course, we had to just pair up, didn't we? And just practice healing. Practice what we had learned. And I remember being paired up with you and just thinking we're going to be in each other's lives for a long time.
Yeah, it was amazing actually, because I mean, we did so much in that course, but I just remember when I had to sit with you and we did, I think it was, I picked up on your heart and stuff.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, totally.
And I think actually, to be honest, at that time, even though I thought I was quite confident in my spiritual gifts, I was, I think I connected with you so deeply in that moment. So we kind of, I think there was a little bit of an activation of some sort there, but I just remember you giving me some feedback, and I was like, oh, actually my gifts are real. So so yeah, it was a great vote of confidence. Watching your journey and connecting to my journey, I think we were kind of on similar journeys, but at different ends of the spectrum. So although I wasn't experiencing what you were experiencing, I was looking after somebody that was experiencing that on quite a profoundly deep and destructive level.
Yeah.
And I think when you get into that space, you have to be so careful, because as much as you want to jump in, and it's very common, you get codependent with it all, and save them, they have to be ready. There has to be a readiness for that deep change, as you will understand.
Well, it was interesting because I was woken up to certain members of my family, and the more I could analyze myself, some of the things that I was struggling with, I could therefore see it around my family. And similarly to you, where we also connected, is we fell out of the kindness of our hearts, we fell into the savior role within our families. And very much we didn't have to, but we chose to go into that position, and which is a really, really brave place to be, but it can also be a form of sabotage. And it can be in a way where you feel, I have to sacrifice my life to save my family. I have to betray all of my needs to save this person, to help them. I am lovable if I can improve this person's life. And out of the big picture circle, through all the healing that both of us have done, we have realized that there's elements of that you can keep, because you can really help someone and guide them, but you can't do it at the detriment to your own self-worth. And I think that's a journey we've been on together, transcending over the last few years. And wow, what a journey. thinking that
Yeah,
you're thinking that, oh, I'm the best person in the world if I give my everything away. And actually, it's flip reversed, isn't it? You can be the best helper if you're fully secure and safe and lovable with yourself. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's, I guess when you go through such a deep journey, that's the medicine within itself. Like, I know definitely, like, and I know you've gone through a similar journey spiritually as well. It just further deepened my connection with the divine consciousness, cosmic beings,
yeah,
however we want to refer to them as. But definitely, I think the thinking I was self-aware before was nothing to, how aware I am becoming. And still a long way to go yet. It never ends, does it? There is such deep kind of gratitude for the journey I have been on, and even witnessing you go on your journey, because I wouldn't be half the person of who I am today without that amount of love that I've given. I had a deep connection with my family, two family members who have now passed and transitioned into magical realms. But that love that I had. I'm not sure that that's everywhere, like that I would do that for everybody, but
yeah,
certainly the empathy is there for the people that I adore around me.
yeah, for sure. And so when I met you on the course, you were already quite open and quite aware of some of your gifts that you have, which are just amazing.
Mm.
When would you say it all began? When did you start to realize this, for anyone that's listening that hasn't got a clue, or maybe they do have an inkling that they are quite open spiritually, but when did it all begin for you? When did you start to become aware?
So I I feel like it began when I was very, very young, very young. I used to have a neighbor, and she would often be quite interested in, I guess, challenging the status quo of the world. I mean, I got a lot of people would refer to this as conspiracies and things like that. So she would often talk to me about Sumerian tablets and things like that. And we know these things actually exist. They're not just theories, but there was so much there. And I'd often find myself perching at her dining table on her laptop, researching and researching. And I think I was 12 years old. And that's not probably when it began, but it probably began much earlier than that. I think my awareness of my gifts began probably around 13 to 14 years old. I started to experience dreams, premonitions, and things like that. Often I would ask for things to be shown to me, and they would appear in my dreams. And one time I kind of, let's say, prayed, or I asked. I knew there was something much bigger than me. And I just perched at the windowsill, looking up at the sky, and I said, if you really exist, can you just show me who you are?
Oh.
When I went to bed that night, I found myself in this big white room, and there was a white table and a white sofa. So I was sat on the sofa, and there was this book, and it was a white book. And there was also a white telephone. So they were obviously very tech savvy, whoever they were. And I just heard this voice, and it was a very godlike voice. And I was instructed to open this book. And when I opened this book, there was this massive white light that just, you can't explain it. The essence was just pure love. And then, I mean, this is quite funny because the phone rang in my dream, that white phone rang. So I went over and picked the phone up, and the voice said, I am the essence of love, or something to that effect. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh my God, there is something out there. I went downstairs to my mom, and I was telling her, and she was like, oh, it's just a dream. But, I
Classic.
I guess we all come with gifts. It's just whether we want to. And I think my awareness began then. And then after that, I mean, I could probably write a book on it, but the other gifts that came, I think for me, it was just about becoming aware. And I became aware very young. I was interested in everything spiritual, really young. I probably don't talk about it enough, but then it was all the other experiences around me, my life experiences, that I believe had to happen to help me to transcend, and lead me and shape me into the person that I am now. So
Totally.
yeah, that's how it began. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I am a dreamer, very much so. since I was a child. And again, it's by no one's fault, but we're told, oh, it's just a dream, don't worry about it, or it's just stuff you picked up from the day. And for me, I just knew it wasn't. I don't know why or how. I just knew deep down that they meant something. And I just tried to always like understand them, and when you come at them from a very 2D human perspective, yeah, of course, they're just a crazy dolphin flying and you're riding the moon in your dream. But actually, I learned after that to feel into the dreams. And that's really when I could understand them more. And of course, some of them I don't, but I was similar to you. It was when I started to have premonitions of the next day, for example, that I just thought, oh my God, there's something in this. And I'm so passionate about it because I feel that everyone dreams, and I feel that we can all use that to start this interest or this deeper connection with yourself and being curious, like you said, being curious about everything. So I'll share one of the premonitions I had. It's been a few, and they come rarely, but they're really obvious when they come in. So one of them, I was actually watching myself in the dream. So for anyone listening, that's a huge sign that you can be lucid or you're astral projecting, and we can go more into that or give it a good Google. But I was watching myself as a character play out a scene, and the scene involved me drinking, and it was not good. I was around a guy who was not good for me. He actually had a partner at the time. And in this dream, I was drinking loads. I was just being a really not great version of myself. And I was watching it, and I was fooling around his flat, and he was trying to flirt with me, and I knew it was wrong. And I was still acting not in my best way. And then I woke up thinking, oh my God, that was awful. How can I ever see myself like that? And I wasn't drinking at the time. I think I was having a break. So then you have all the crazy drunken dreams. So I just thought, oh, it's just a drunken dream. Then the next day, this guy messaged me, and he said, can I go around to his flat? And I thought, this is about to play out. This
Yeah.
is exactly about to play out. I was really craving drinking that day. I was really in oh yeah, why not? I'm going to break my sobriety. I'm going to have a drink today. And then he messaged, and then it just all clicked. Oh my gosh, this is the path. If I go down this route, if I drink and if I go to his flat, I've seen what will happen. And luckily, I just knew, okay, great. I don't have to do that. I'm not going to drink, and I'm definitely not going to go to his flat. And then I managed to choose a different path. And that's when I really thought, gosh, this is quite powerful. And another one, really weird, this one. My dad actually had cancer, as you know, and I've spoken about with him on the podcast previously. I had a dream this night that his mum, so my grandma, who had passed on, was telling me that he was unwell, and she was showing me a picture of his lungs. I was thinking, this is weird. And she was pointing to 2 points. There was 2 little lumps in his lung. And she was pointing and saying, you know, he's really unwell, Tabby. He's really unwell. You've got to check. You've got to check. So then I woke up the next day like, oh, gosh. And I knew Dad was having scans at the time for a lump in his neck. It wasn't in his lungs. So that's where sometimes the dreams can be they just show you in different ways. So I rang Dad. I was like, Dad, because I always tell people when I've dreamt about them. And that's when you start to get the feedback. Oh, yeah, that is actually happening in my life, or that is useful. So I rang Dad, Dad, Grandma was in my dream last night. She's telling me that you've got 2 lumps in your lungs. You've got to get it checked. You've got to do it. And he just said, oh, yeah, no, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. And put the phone down. But a few weeks later, he told me that he had just been in the doctors, and they had just told him that he had cancer, and that there were 2 lumps in his throat. And because we knew about one, but we didn't know it was cancer. And I'd rang just straight after he'd just been diagnosed, and he was just processing things. He wasn't sure whether to tell me there and then, but I knew because the dream told me. So it's a magical journey. But yeah. What would you say has been your biggest or most interesting dream message?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many, similarly to you, so many premonitions and messages that come through. I think early on, I was not very early on, as in from a young age, I was not know, I didn't know how to interpret them or
Yeah.
how to navigate it in a way that I can use it as a tool to prevent
Yes.
something or to intervene in some way. I think, gosh, that's a really big question, actually. I'm trying to just trying to
Yeah,
think
sorry.
of a I've had so many. So okay, I'm going to share this one because it is quite profound, and I think it's very connected to the shamanic space as well, which, as you know, I walk that path. Probably a little bit of a vulnerable share, but I hope that it helps someone else somewhere else. I remember I was at my aunt's house and I went to sleep one night, and as you do every night. Um, and what had happened was I think I went to bed about 10 o'clock, and I I found myself in this kind of dark, derelict room. It looked like a warehouse, but I was just in front of this room, and there was a chair in that room, and a loved one was sat on that chair, and I was trying to get into the room, and you could feel. I guess it's so important to understand how you feel in the dream. It's a really good indicator of where you're at and what the dream could potentially mean. So I stood in front of this room trying to get into it, but I was being prevented from getting into the room, and I was being prevented by a snake. And I know it sounds scary, but it was scary in my dream. So each time I tried to enter the room, I was just being stopped by this snake, and I couldn't get in. And all I remember was that I needed to get in to save my family member in that room. His spirit was quite unhappy. And I suddenly woke up, and I think it was about 12 midnight. So it was happened in a space of 2 hours. I couldn't deny what I was feeling. So I woke up the next morning and I said, I have to go back. I have to go back to my hometown, like now. And when I went back home that night, that was the night that, that my loved one had passed away. So I
Mm.
it was such a strong dream. I could not deny what I was feeling, and I had a very deep connection with this family member. So we were clearly connecting on some astral plane,
Yeah.
so I think this is more about when we have these dreams and these premonitions, we know we're kind of either entering a portal or a different dimension that's helping us to see a future timeline. And it's almost like in that particular scenario, had I not have had that dream, I would have been staying where I was staying for yet another week.
Yeah.
So we are always guided, and I felt I was getting massive guidance there. And I think I'm I feel confident in discernment, so I
Yeah.
discerned it. So I took action. So yeah, so I think when we have dreams like this, it's so important to not just have them, but to think about what they feel like, or is it
Yeah.
representing something? So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think I was able to use that tool immediately, and often that's happened as my journey has deepened in the, I guess, in this spiritual realm so much more than before.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's so important when they come in so strong like that. That's when you can't deny it. And like you said, I think the feeling, obviously you're being shown some scary things, the snake, etc. And because we have studied a lot of this stuff and we're curious about the shamanic path, the astral
Yeah,
dreaming, psychic stuff, we understand what a snake is and its learnings and lessons and all of that stuff. And you obviously
yeah,
had a strong feeling that you needed to be somewhere, and you very much did. So that's when it can be. And of course, it wasn't the best news, but that was really important that
yeah,
you
massive.
needed to go there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my friends like come to me, they come to me with dream symbols of their own dreams. What does this mean? Tabby, you're the dream girl,
Yeah.
you know what it means. And I don't know
Yeah.
what it means for other people because I'm not in their dream. Well, sometimes I am. But I don't know how it feels for them. So I can poach them a little bit and ask them good questions. How did it feel? Who was there? What did you wake up feeling like? Did you remember it? All of these kind of questions. But with dreaming, it's so individual, isn't it? You only know your own dreams, and you can only know and start to discern them by practicing. And very much I say, talking to people. I used to think people would think I'm crazy if I ring them like, I had a dream about you last night. We were bungee jumping here and this was happening, but it made me think, are you worried about something? I need to talk to you. And normally it's yes, I really needed to speak to you. Not the bungee jumping bit, but I always tell people, because then I always feel like there's a reason why they're in my dream. And sometimes they'll just laugh, but then after a few days later, it might come that they got something from the dream, or they understood a message that I didn't understand. So I think it's really good to share and talk about dreams openly, like we are today. So yeah. And what would you say your biggest tips are? I know you mentioned you ask before you go to sleep for some insights. But do you have any other good tips for people working with their dreams and their intuition?
Yeah, I think there comes a point where I've stopped asking, it just happens now. I become a portal. But I think the very first thing to remember is not everybody's going to dream premonitions, and not every dream has a meaning.
Yeah.
Of course, when you think about the subconscious mind, and I guess that's a question in itself. Why do some have it and why do some not? But coming back to your question, I think the very first thing to remember is, if you're going to ask for insights, ask, in the highest good that will serve you and another person or another situation. If you ask for the truth, just be prepared to receive that. And it may not be something that comes immediately. I always think it's a really good thing to meditate before you go to sleep, if that's what you want and you want to gain insights. And probably not to eat maybe a good few hours beforehand, because it gets in the way of things, digestion, human body, and things like that. So
yeah.
And I think if you have a dream, that I always think that when you remember a dream, always remember how it made you feel, because I always think that's a really good indication of what the dream is trying to tell you. The visual could be something completely different to the way you might feel. So always think about it and write it down. And I think if you do a little Google search, you'll probably find a lot of these things there. But we know that when we think about ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptian civilization, dreams were believed to be messages from gods and ancestors. And a lot of that time, during those times, there were dream interpreters, and they were actually consulted for guidance for their personal affairs. And I don't know if you know, but there's something known as the Egyptian dream book that they used to have.
Wow.
So these are important things, to remember. And in dreams, we call them dreams, but actually it's understood that our soul kind of leaves our body in the middle of the night anyway, because it's not our soul that needs rest, it's our body. So we'll always travel astral planes. Some people remember their dreams and some people just don't. It's okay. Like, everybody's different. We certainly remember our dreams, I know that much. So
we do.
I think taking these things into account always helps. And I think it also depends where you're at in your own journey, what you want to explore. Because I guess when we get into a space of exploration, a lot of things can open up, because we're beginning to open up. So you'll often find a lot of shifts in the types of dreams you're having. The more you deepen your connection with yourself, your connection and insights into anything else that you want to connect to, that is, I guess, consciously evolving or in a celestial way.
Exactly.
So yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah,
someone.
for sure. And I just went to Guatemala, as I've talked about on the podcast as well already. And the reason I went was because there was this week of training to learn about lucid dreaming from this dream guru specialist. And some of the stories she had to tell were just, wow, inspiring. And I can lucid dream, but it's not something that comes so naturally. I really have to set an intention. Tonight I'm going to lucid dream. This is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to go. But yeah, maybe I'll delve some more once I've practiced a little bit more and I'm a bit more secure on it. But we did a few exercises out there in Guatemala, and it was just so funny because we're practicing. It's like school. We had a little task. We had to light a candle, wake up, look at the candle, go back to sleep, lucid dream. And I had this experience where I woke up and did all of the tasks that I was meant to do, look at the candle, go outside, all of this stuff. And I did it. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. No one else is doing it. No one else is outside with me. Like, 'cause we were all meant to wake up at a certain time. And then I went back to bed, and then I actually woke up and realized that I'd done it all lucidly in my dream state, not
Wow.
in my actual reality. So then I heard the alarm to wake up, and then I thought, this is just, what's it called? Where the day repeats. It's like, I've just done it.
Deja vu.
Deja vu. Yeah.
Deja vu.
I've just done this though. And then I got up, did the whole exercise again, and there were actually people there, and it was the reality. But it's crazy how I was fully living a reality, but I was on a different dimension, different level, a few quirky things. They say there's quirky things you have to look out for in your dreams. So if you're in a place that in your reality, you're not physically there, a lot of it can be your childhood home, for example. Not many of us live still in our childhood home. But if we're taken back in a dream to our childhood home, that should be in an instant click, or an instant, oh, I'm dreaming because I'm at home, I'm at my childhood home. And once you wake up within the dream, they say you can control it and you can do fun things and little missions and ask questions. So that's a whole nother world to explore. I'm very much at the beginning of my journey with that, but it's a fun one for sure. If anyone else is
Yeah.
to give that a
I
go.
mean, I think your dreaming journey it's only deepened, like since
Yeah.
we met 3 years ago. Like the kind of dreams you're having, you're definitely tapping in or tuning in to different timelines, different realms, dimensions. It's amazing because I remember when you told me about going to Guatemala and experiencing this specifically, and the woman who was guiding that particular workshop. But it's profound. But I guess, I mean, I do have a question. What do you think? And it kind of goes back to what I said just about 10 minutes ago. What do you think makes some people have premonitions and dreams and tap into that astral realm and remember it, and those that don't?
Interesting. So definitely stopping the alcohol again. That was massive level up in my dreams. And I know people experience that just from sober October, dry Jan. They have crazy dreams.
Yeah.
So that was a big one for me. And just practice different things. And the things that worked for me, I logged them and then I did them again. But when I went to Guatemala, the kind of dream amazing lady, Chatty, she did say some people have the faculties open and some don't, but they have
Yeah.
faculties elsewhere. So this can get a bit next level spiritual. It can be from past lives where we have already those gifts open and we take them through with us because we're meant to help awaken others, or we're meant to do some work on the other side. She really explained it like that. She said, when I go to sleep, I'm working.
Yeah.
I just found that so funny. She said, I'm working all night. All night she's working and asking questions and connecting with higher beings and learning about the world. And she comes back into her physical body and gets to share and teach this to us, to the people that are fascinated. So all it takes, like you said, is the curiosity, I think, and the will to be interested and to practice. But cutting alcohol definitely helps. Toxins in general, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it almost feels like we know that for you the alcohol was obviously blocking this kind of, I guess what we call we would call it a pretty open third eye connection by releasing all those toxins out. And now you're in a space where now suddenly it's like you're tapping into every aspect of different realms. But I don't know if you know, like it's very famous Jungian psychologist, Carl Jung. So this is not just entirely all spiritually based, but even he did a lot of studies and he has a lot of psychological concepts around dreams and why we have them. And he did a lot of studying around, symbolism and archetypes and tapping into universal themes. And he talks a lot about unconscious collective and how we are all connected, and it's actually through the dreams that we bridge the gap between sort of individual psyche and collective unconscious. So it kind of offers us insights into like deeper layers of human experience. So I think it's great. You are where you are with connecting, and I think maybe you can probably, I guess you can begin to start to really connect into how you would use your dreams to get more insight about your journey.
Yeah, because we've spoken about this before, haven't we? That one of my missions here on planet Earth is to transcend spiritual woo-woo information and bring it practically into our lives to help us live happy, joyful, well-rounded, aware lives as humans, not on this spiritual astral plane, not just in the dream world. It's to bring the knowledge and the useful parts of that into our reality. And we speak about this all the time. So even last week, for example, how we still practice theta healing, or a basis of theta healing. It's now developed with all of us. We're all individually doing our own methods now. But normally I have a dream and I get the message. I'm like, all right, that's something I need to look at. That's a part of me that, yes, I've been burying in my subconscious. I need to work on it. Okay, you've highlighted it in my dream. I'll go and work on it. Fine. So that's great when it can happen like that. And I can just do the work myself. But most of the time, I need help. I need a practitioner. I need a chat with you or a chat with someone, a really open-hearted, open-minded chat. And last week I had my friends will laugh because I was telling them every day. I had a series of dreams. I had one dream on the Friday night. Then on the Saturday night, I had the next dream, similar theme, different characters. Another night, similar theme, different characters. Another night. It was a 4-part series. And I could understand the feelings, like we've said, and the people, but I just couldn't get to the bottom of it myself. I was like, I don't get why this is happening and this is here, and I'm confused and I'm getting angry. What's it trying to show me? And I connected with one of our friends for a healing session, and she said, just tell me about your dream. So I told her everything, and she was just like, right, boom, it's this. Your subconscious is telling you this, and this is how it's affecting your daily life. And I just thought, oh, amazing, great, let's reprogram that, get rid of that, bring in this, and now I'm going to step into my best self without all of those things that are dragging me down. And then the dreams were great after that. No, not too many messages. So I do think it's really important, and all that you can be, I think you'll resonate with this, is all you can do as a human being. We are spiritual beings living a human experience, and all we can do is be the best version of ourselves. And I just think that's so important, because there's so many mental health issues, there's so many addictions and self-medicating people that numb and stay in that repetitive cycle of feeling bad. And there's so much out there that can make you feel good. So yeah, went off on a bit of a tangent there, but
no, it's great. I think I want to touch on something you said about addiction. Actually, it's interesting because the old paradigm is that we associate addiction with drugs or alcoholism or eating. But we know that we live in an era which ultimately, if we were to put it in simple terms, it's dopamine seeking. Dopamine seeking right now can just happen with scrolling. We know that there's that's an addiction in itself, isn't it? Even when we think about dopamine seeking, it's that, why do we dopamine seek? Because it makes us feel good. It's that escapism, isn't it? It's like escaping from the reality. So how do we make our reality so beautiful that we don't have to escape from it? And I think that is what leads you into stepping into that kind of empowered self, as we would say, or the embodied self.
Exactly that. It was almost, because I do analyze my dreams. So the first night, the episode 1 happened, but that's a bit weird. No, can't work it out. So then it's almost like the universe is like, okay, we're going to give you episode 2 now. You'll get it now. No, didn't get it. Episode 3. Oh my gosh. I was like tearing my hair out, messaging my friends. They were like, wow, that is some crazy dreaming you've got going on. But yeah, I think that's that's it. It's just being curious and looking at other ways to better yourself. So I knew something funky was going on. Yes, it was just in my dreams, but it was still affecting my daily life because I was waking up thinking, well, why is that? Why have I got that weird feeling? Why do I feel like that in my dream? Why did I not come across as a nice person in that dream? I like to think that I am, because obviously my shadow self's coming up, something that I can work on, something that I'm not aware of. And it's all about awareness. When you are aware of your flaws, because we're all flawed, aren't we? When you're aware of your flaws, where you're aware of your mistakes, is the only way that you can work at being a better person. It doesn't mean you're going to fix and change it. It just means you're aware of it, so you don't have to fall into it as often. And going back to the drinking, for example, I just wasn't my best version. So it was interesting when I had that dream watching myself. I could see myself as a character of that not good version, and that's not someone I want to be friends with. So then why would I want to live that as a person? It's not my best version. I'm better without that. So yeah,
I think it was amazing when you shared that dream with me, because I remember we had quite a profound conversation about that particular dream where you saw yourself. And I thought that was so profound when you had that dream, because it just tells me that, you know, you're clearly being guided. Not everybody gets that chance to do that. Not everybody is able to stop. And that in itself is, I know for me, and having been a caregiver for someone in that space, it's heartbreaking, and it's destructive for the person that's watching, you know. So I think that when you told me that you'd had that dream and you got shown a mirror, basically, that's what you were shown.
Yeah, the mirror.
You know, I thought there was something just deeply healing about that, because it was that wake up call, or that kind of alarm bell that went off that told you that, okay, you can change. And you're clearly here to do some work, you know. So it's like you're being pushed and shoved and carved into something that is going to be able to help others go through empowering and transformational journeys.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I learned this from my shaman. Everyone is a mirror. And we've spoken about this so many times, and I just didn't get it for years. It's like, no, they're not. I don't like that person. I don't like that. They're not like me. They're not a mirror of me. And when you get it, it's not something that can be explained, I don't think. I just think it's something that needs to be taken in and thought about. Everyone is a mirror, the good parts of you and the bad parts of you. And it's all reflected back to us. So we have the choice to look in the mirror and accept or change or add to parts of ourselves. But the mirror, we've found that. I think that we've both been mirrors to each other a lot of the time, but in the nicest, most wholesome learning way. Whenever you've called me out for certain things, it's been with the best, it's been delivered in the best way, for example. So I'm not triggered by you. I'm just you take it on.
I think, you know, with what you're saying, you're talking about effectively, you're talking about mirror and shadow work, which I know you've mentioned. And I guess with mirroring, we know that we are all aspects of each other. So it kind of brings me to a point where I've spent my whole life with people coming in and out, and I've had really long-term friendships. And then, you know, naturally, when you're on this path and you get to a certain point of evolving, it's such a natural process where some people might drop off and new people come in. And again, they all act as mirrors, learnings, teachings, medicine. But I wanted to come back to shadow work, because I think that not everyone is ready or wants to do that work. It's kind of, you have to be courageous to be able to step into shadow work, and it brings about another level of sort of self-awareness. And I think it's actually part of the transcending aspect of one. When you are transcending, you naturally step into shadow work. We never finish shadow work. Shadow work just gives us another type of depth and awareness. It helps us to realize, it's a bit like, you know, when we think about the, I guess, psychological space, we think about, okay, you know, if we don't heal our stuff, you'll hurt people that you'll end up bleeding on the people that didn't hurt you. So it's a similar thing. Like if you don't do that work on yourself, you will end up projecting it onto somebody else, and then someone else is carrying that stuff, or whether it comes to blame or, that sort of thing. And I think when we've had our conversations, I know it's always been about the growth and about looking at where we can pivot in our lives in a way that we can be in service in the highest possible way, and be around the people that are going to bring the best out
Yes.
in us.
Totally. And yeah, exactly that. Be around the people that bring out the best. And then if someone is bringing out the worst in you, acknowledge that in yourself and why, and be curious and question, where's this coming from? Why did I act like that around that person? Why is that version of me stronger than my other version at that time? Yeah, it's super interesting. God, we love it, don't we? When we get on the phone, we just chat for hours. I wanted to also talk about Maya is extremely gifted in, I would say, your psychic abilities, right? You've got quite an open channel, and I wanted to touch on this about myself because I love to know about the future. But people say that's not always the best place to live in because you should be in the present. But I found that actually through having sessions with psychics, I've had some great guidance in my life. And even if it's just made me feel excited about the future or at peace with the future, it's helped me to get into a good headspace to step forward into my best version. And funnily enough, there was one time, wasn't there, when I was in the UK and I rang you. I was like, Maya, I need some help. What can you help look at some things for me? I'm feeling really lost. You picked up on you're going to be moving. So I'm thinking, no, I'm not. You're going to be moving somewhere in the Mediterranean. I can see you with your feet in the sand. And then I am now living in Ibiza. And it was funny because when I went for the first 2 months in 2021, and then I came back, you said, no, you're meant to be there longer than this. You're not meant to be there for just 2 months. And I was thinking, oh no, I just planned 2 months. That was all I planned. You're like, no, I think you're meant to be there for a longer time. And then lo and behold, it's been like nearly 2 years now I've been living here. So interesting. So yeah, you're extremely talented in that. And you've always, again, with delivery, delivered things in the nicest, most inspiring way. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
No, that's amazing. I mean, I think my psychic, but it's not the main work that I do, but
No.
certainly it's part of a much bigger intuitive library. I guess, we're friends, and I'm always going to watch out for you. And I think I remember that conversation so well.
Yeah.
And often I'll be honest with you, when it comes to my intuition, and I guess exactly as you say, that we call them psychic abilities, I think it's always come down to, I know I've always had that gift, but I think it came down to sort of when I was often sharing wisdom. Sometimes I would be sharing wisdom and talking about things, and then a few days later, friends or people, or just like yourself, would be like, that came true, and that's when I started to realize, like, okay, I could help people. I could, because I connect on a mediumship level, so I do connect to past loved ones, and I think that on that day when we spoke, I mean, I can't remember the entire conversation, but I do remember seeing your journey, and I just remember seeing that, she's not meant to be here. And but yeah, no, it was amazing, and it goes a really long way to have such a gift, because I think for me it's deepened, and it's something I don't need to consciously tap into it on a day-to-day basis. It's something that's just there, and I think that's where my discernment came from. That's partly how my discernment, I started to become discerning about things.
Yeah.
So, but I think equally, Tabby, you are also very intuitive, and you do have psychic abilities, and we all use different things to tap into that space, and I mean, I don't use anything. I just need to connect to the person, really. And if I can't connect, then I won't do it, So, but you can use any sort of tools to connect in, and yeah, I think it's a profound gift, and if used in the correct way, it can change your life, and it can change the life of others too. Because I remember you saying to me just in our last conversation that actually it was because of a psychic reading that you had some years ago that led you into this path.
It
I
was.
think that's what you said. Yeah, this is not just about like, if you can connect to the right person to guide you, you kind of, in some spaces, you can just see as spiritual guidance as opposed to labeling it with psychic. It's just that we know it's a common word to use or to frame that kind of gift. But yeah, I remember you saying that to me, that you had
Yeah.
a psychic reading with someone, and that's ultimately what led you to, or started your journey, basically.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, again, from a young age, we've been curious about mermaids, fairies, woods, and all these mystical things I loved when I was little. And then I I think the most commercial label of a spiritual person is, the psychic that you go to in the shop that reads your cards. That's
Mm.
how most people view it. So that's how it started for me. It was funny because I wasn't even looking for information about the future. I just wanted to know everything was going to be okay, really. And my mum and dad had just split up. My brother was feeling quite low as well at the time. And I went to a psychic in Covent Garden who came recommended. And I just said, I just want to look into my mom and dad and my family, and is everything going to be okay? And then she felt into the energies and was very reassuring, was very accurate. And then that just put me at ease. And then, therefore, if I'm feeling at ease, I'm able to be my best version of myself in life and support my family because I have this knowing, okay, oh, it's fine. The psychic told me everything's going to be okay. I can reassure them. And that's where it started. And then I had opened the gate that I'd always wanted to open. And oh, I love it. And now I practice tarot, which again is a physical, you're seeing on a card some symbols, but it's mainly channeling, isn't it? Really, it's using your intuition. But love it. And in regards to using gifts, a big myth that I just wanted to squish on the podcast, I guess, is that you imagine that a psychic or your intuition is someone who sees cartoon images and that is telling them what's going to happen. And it's not necessarily the case. I know a lot of people that use their intuition. Sometimes people feel things, they don't see anything. You can be clairsentient, I believe that is, where you just feel that something's going to happen, or you can feel that that can't even think of an example right now. But I think with me, I have a combo of all of them. It's clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, and there's another one. I
All
forgot.
the clairs. I think there's 5 clairs.
5 clairs, yeah. Mine's definitely a mixture. And I think that's really important for people to know that it's not always going to come through as cartoon images when you've shut your eyes. It can sometimes just be that strong inner knowing. Sometimes I just wake up and I have this really strong inner knowing. No one's told me, no dreams. I just know something is going to happen. And then to get the confirmation, that's the main thing, isn't it? The more you tell people, the more you talk, the more you ask people, and then you get the confirmation that makes you trust your own inner knowing more. And I think it is
Yeah,
something that everyone can work on. Everyone
yeah.
has the
Just to
ability.
connect, yeah, just to connect into that, Tabby, I wanted to touch on that actually, what you just literally just said at the end there, that we all come into this world with gifts. We all come into this world with intuition. We all have it. It's just how we use it. And when we think about people who might not believe in these things, they still have gut instinct. And
Yeah.
often when it comes to like understanding how real your gifts are, it's usually through the mentorship of some sort of guidance that confirms, okay, this is how you need to navigate or use your gifts. And it's not always necessary, like everybody uses different tools. I mean, some people use tarot as you do. Some people just do hands free. I do hands free, but often I might have a crystal in my hand just it helps me read. Some people use scrying or even ribbons. Some people rub on the card to be able to see. And it doesn't matter. I think everybody has a different way of connecting to their intuition, or as we've discussed, through our dreams as well.
Yes.
So it can be, providing you are connecting with the right person who can help you to connect on a deeper level that you might not be able to, or that you can, but you might not have the confidence to believe what your intuition is saying. I think it's always important, just some parting wisdom, to be able to connect to the person that's reading for you,
For sure.
because that makes the biggest difference. Like, I know by, it's just a principle I have. I don't read, but like if I was connecting with someone who I'm not aware of, I'm not connected to through friendship or my family, if I'm not able to connect with them, I will just say, come back another day. It's just the way spirit works. They're obviously on strike today, so I won't do the reading. But I think there's something really deep about the words that you share during that reading. It's so important to make sure that you're giving someone hope and some guidance in your reading, and not fear mongering with stuff. And I know stuff can come up, but I guess there's a way of navigating around that. Everybody reads differently, and it can have a profound effect on that person's journey in such a big way. But yeah, I think whether you call it psychic readings, spiritual guidance, mediumship, whatever banner you want to put it under, if you are equipped with your intuition to be able to spiritually guide somebody with your words, because you might have a different way of connecting, it could have a massive positive effect on that person's journey.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility for healers, channelers, spiritual guides, coaches, mentors, and it's the whole trend at the moment. It's becoming saturated with people that are interested, curious, waking up to their gifts. And I love that. But again, there's a lot of, I don't want to swear, but there's a lot of rubbish out there. So if you are going to a spiritual coach or a spiritual guide, really, really feel into whether they're the right person for you. And my biggest tip is, are they humble and are they authentic? Because again, use your gut feeling, use your intuition to feel into that who's right for you, because you do not want to have something that doesn't align with you and can make you feel a bit uncertain. You want to be feeling good and learning and feeling uplifted. So yeah.
And I guess some people might not know how to do that. So like they might not know how do we know that it's the right connection? Because I guess we can get in our heads about it. But I think a really good way to discern that is just to see how you're regulating. So when we self-regulate, our nervous system is calm, we feel safe, we feel comfortable, we feel like we could get vulnerable. But if our nervous system is wreaking havoc when we're connecting, then either it's not the right time to connect with that person, or just that person's not right for you. Doesn't necessarily mean that person's not right at all. It just means they might not bring you the wisdom, medicine, messages that you need that time. So I think that's because our body has its own intelligence, right? And I think that's, although we're becoming more and more aware of it, I think we forget that our body talks to us daily. Like, it's a bit like that saying that, people will never forget how you make them feel, and I think, remember that with not just this, but with anything, business, healing, family, friends, whatever it is. How do you feel once they've left? How do you feel while they're with you? I think it's a really good way
I
to
love
discern.
that so much. I think that needs to be the closing quote of this podcast, because it's all about the feelings, the dreams, the people, the business, your lifestyle, the toxins around you. How does it make you feel? And really go and feel into that, and you'll know what's best for you. So yeah, I love that so much. Oh, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing so honestly. I mean, we've talked for ages. This will be a long one, but I like that. I don't mind it. So if you could please, please, please share your Instagram and what you do and where people can find you, because I know you've got so much to offer everyone. And if they're as lucky as me to connect with you, then they need to know where you are.
So thank you, Tabby. So I think to keep it really simple, and then I'll explain what it is exactly that I do. But I, at a very high level, I strengthen the connection between your heart and mind and just help you to remember. I walk the path of a medicine woman. Also, I'm a business psychologist. So the way I help people is I transform people's lives by integrating ancient wisdom modalities and my business psychology to rewrite their subconscious beliefs around trauma. So effectively, I kind of help you change your story, the story that you tell yourselves, and emerge as visionary leaders, sort of driving meaningful change. But yeah, you can just follow me on Instagram, which is Maya Sarah Rose. Just started that account, so it might look a little bit empty, but please go ahead and follow. There'll be more content on there soon.
But yeah, thank you so much. If you want to see more of what I'm up to, please give me a follow on Instagram at Tabitha Camden. Thank you so much for listening today. I super enjoy recording these podcasts. And if you've enjoyed listening, please hit that follow or like or subscribe button